Today we finish off the story of our Chicago White Sox draft-only team here. And of course, coming off a pretty disappointing loss in the playoffs after being the team in the MLB with the most wins in the regular season. Weren't able to get that championship in the duration of the series, you know, when we're following the team more closely, but hopefully we can win some championships here. We're going to see how long we can keep this team together. I think in baseball, it's easier than, you know, say in the NFL with the hard cap. You just have to basically stay within your budget. But the more you win, the higher your budget goes. And so I think we should have some success keeping the main core of this team together for the long haul. I think it has a chance to be a really special core that can do some great things, but there's only one way to find out, and that's to actually get into the simulation. So let's hop in to what would be year 9 is where we're starting this long-term sim. So here's what the situation here is in the first offseason. Got some guys, our first real batch of arbitration. We're going to be losing quite a few guys here. Richie Rivera will probably add offer to here as well. But other than this, here's what we've got. Bruno, one of our starting pitchers, gonna see if we can't have him back. Bertolo Ordonez, we're gonna offer him a little bit more of a long-term 4-year deal. Alden Evans, he's gone. I just don't think he's quite been good enough for us. Rivera has that B potential, so we're gonna try to keep him around. And then we've got Ezra Rodriguez, we're also gonna try to keep around. These other guys, Darren Roman, I offered. I think we've got other options at backup catcher for Nicholson here. And I just don't know if I want to be really paying much for a backup catcher. I think Victor Benitez will also be one more guy now that I'm taking a second look that we'll try to bring back. And that's pretty much gonna be it for arbitration. Now, contracts, we are offering one big deal. Gonna try to keep Edgar Torres around for 10 years at $12 million per. He's really into that deal, so hopefully he says yes. Everyone else here is just 1-year offers. So that's basically it for the offseason. We'll see if these guys come back on arbitration or whatnot, but nothing too big here in this first offseason. Also, a word of note for this, I will, just for the sake of my own sanity, have drafting on auto for this. We'll still check to see who the team drafted, and I had to update my scouts for this because the strategy for your scouts for when you're doing the scouting yourself versus when it's being done automatically are very different. I think in cases where you're gonna be having the scouts do it on their own, you want kind of more well-balanced guys because you don't know what they're gonna be doing. It's all gonna be randomized. Whereas if you're doing it yourself, you can get, you know, the more specialized guys because you're only gonna be asking them to do one thing. And so if you want accurate scouting, you kind of got to get the all-around guys, which I tried to do for the most part here. I got a couple guys with 80 plus everything, and then the last guy I had to go a little bit cheaper, so he's at least 73 plus on everything. So just as a note for draft purposes. All right, here's our first in-season checkup on how the team's doing. We're 67 and 44 as we are just starting August. Here is our draft class. We only signed 3 picks and they were all awful. So not a great starting point for our scouting department. I don't know if we had higher picks and we just didn't sign them or what was the problem here, but only 3 picks and they weren't good ones. And another thing I want to do when we do this mid-season stop is just take a look specifically at our prospects, so that we can see if anybody's maybe ready for a call-up. Diego Moya was sent down here in this season. And I mean, he's been really excellent. He's up to an 81 overall. I think he is due for a call up. Johnny Hill here. He is doing quite well here. OPS of 837. He's got 19 homers and 425 ABs. I think he's somebody that we could talk about calling up despite being just 18 years old. I mean, some great development. His power's up a total combined of 9. Sable here. Been really solid as well. So we got some guys that are definitely on the verge of being MLB level players. Driver we're familiar with. Been, I think, worse than the other guys that we've already previewed. So then at the AA level, we got Tate Castilla up here at 78 overall. He's been doing pretty well. I think he might be due for a call up soon. Felton, he's already up 5 overall. Another guy who we just drafted, he's only 18 years old. Really fun player. Imagine he'll be a major leaguer at some point for us. So yeah, we got a lot of guys that are pretty close. I think we got to get Moya up. We got to get Hill up maybe this season. Or maybe we let Johnny Hill have 1 season at the minors and then call him up next year. But Moya needs to come up. He's already on our roster, so we're just gonna do that, and then we're gonna send. Let's go to our MLB roster. Let's find our worst starting pitcher. And it's Reed Wills. Yeah, let's send him down. That's going to be the one change we make here. For now, if we go to pitching rotation, I think Fernando Bruno can be replaced by Moya here. Not by May, by Moya. I think this will do. And we'll talk about everybody's stats once we finish off the season. Got a couple months left. 103 wins here in season 9. Let's now take a look here at the stats player by player, starting here with the leader in hits for the season was Russell Mosqueda. His contact went up quite a bit. His power versus lefties went down, but plus 10 contact versus righties this year. He's up to a 98 overall, so this is pretty much, it's not obviously the final view, but this is pretty much what we're going to see here from Russell Mosqueda for the rest of the year and for the rest of his career, I mean. So he ends up with 36 home runs, 119 RBIs, over 1,000 OPS, and a 9.4 WAR. So more of a contact than a power season for him, but I mean, hitting 350, my goodness. Jason Gill up next. Didn't improve a ton. I think he might be close now to his max. He did get a career high in home runs this year, 820 on the OPS. WAR just a little bit worse than last year, but still a pretty good season for him. Rincon, -8 contact versus lefties. I don't know what happened there, but he did have his worst average of his MLB career, also his lowest home run, so definitely not a great season for Rincon. You know, according to his standards, his worst WAR season as well. Sandoval, I mean, I guess didn't hit a lefty the entire season. Did he hit literally 0 against lefties? But home runs were down, average is down, OPS is down, WAR is down. So a lot of these guys actually kind of doing worse than they did last season. But what just happened with all that noise? We're at Carl McIntyre here. He had 284. That was his highest, also his highest in home runs. So you got to imagine it is his highest OPS as well. Highest in WAR. So good stuff from him. Garrett Guerra here in his age 19 season. Looks like things went a bit better for him. One more home run. He got much higher average. His OPS is up as well. And his WAR is over 1. There you go. There you have it. His fielding is getting better for sure. Chet Rodriguez, yeah, he's already maxed out. Ray Beasley got some time here at the MLB level, and he took advantage of it here. Batted .318 with an OPS above 800, 7 home runs, a WAR of 1.6. So nice to see him getting comfortable here at the MLB level. Boyer continues to improve steadily. Year pretty similar to last year, honestly. Everything within just a couple, it seems like. So Boyer is we kind of know who Boyer is at this time. At this point, Philip Jung also got the call up to the MLB to replace the fact that we didn't sign our other backup catcher, and he did pretty decent, honestly. So not mad at that for backup catcher numbers, but obviously the MVP of the team continues to be Russell Mosqueda. Now looking at pitchers here, we got innings pitched. Let's just sort by this and then start going in. Tom Williamson here up to a 95 overall. I think he's now the second highest overall on the team already, despite being just 20 years old. I mean, look at some of these additions. +7 home runs per 9 to get him into the 70s. Everything except for control is now at least into the 70s, and his strikeouts per 9 is getting up there near the 90s. His ERA and WHIP, both improvements here. His WAR was up by over 2. Strikeouts per 9 down a little bit, but walks per 9 down, home runs per 9 down. And so just a better overall pitcher, maybe not the volume of strikeouts he had from last year. Edgar Torres here continues to get better and better. Very similar to last year, maybe just slightly worse, but ratings wise, he's looking good, near 90 overall. Pringle, he's hot and cold, above 5, below 4, above 5, below 4. But this was his best year at 3.4 WAR, so nice to see him thriving. Esteban Acevedo here, 3.9 ERA, 117 WHIP, his highest in WAR as well. So he continues to improve up to 85 overall. Fernando Bruno, not spectacular this season, but not terrible either. Want to see Bartolo Ordonez here. How was he? It was not our closer. Who was our closer? It was Andreas Ornelas. Okay. I was only paying attention to the starting. I didn't really pay attention to the bullpen, but looks like he was really good. 44 saves to 1 blown save. Yeah, I mean, you're the closer. Goodness, he was incredible. So with a really low ERA, WHIP below 1. So yeah, I can't really complain about the CPU making him the closer then. So this is where we are at. Now let's start to get into the playoffs. And let's see who we will be facing first. Tampa Bay. We get a rematch here. Chicago versus Tampa Bay. And let's start to... The way we're going to do the playoffs is I'm just going to... What happened to our lineups? Why are our lineups not valid? Did they take out... What did they take out? They took out my DH. Why do you... Dude, this game is... Stop. He's on the playoff roster. He was on our roster all season. Why would the game take it off, man? We don't need David Sanchez on the playoff roster. Okay. Now I gotta put him back in. One guy we actually didn't look at his season. He had 18 home runs, batted .275. Just all around okay, which has kind of been the story of him with us. Somebody that I think is going to be replaced pretty dang soon once we get Johnny Hill up in here. Where did he end up? Ended up at 78 overall. Yeah, he's playing at the big league level next year. He's going to be our DH next year, honestly. And so Aaron Roman, probably his last season with the squad. Losing game 1, 4-6. We'd bounce back with a 6-5 victory in game 2. 13-6 would be the win. We're going to game 5. Can we avoid getting upset by the Rays 2 years in a row? We can't. The heck, man? Oh, that's frustrating. The best team in baseball, and we can't get past the first freaking round. We'd end up signing Dave Roberts to be our manager, and he's pretty good. So Dave Rossi was our manager, is now our farm director. So hopefully this improvement in staff, we're paying him a metric F ton of money. Hopefully that can get us over the hump, because we need to do it. Here in this offseason, there's no long-term contracts to go through, really. In terms of guys that we're going to lose, I guess actually Esteban Acevedo we are offering for 4 years, 18. That's the only one that goes beyond 2 years. We're gonna lose Fernando Bruno this season. I think we have the pitchers to replace him, though. We're also gonna lose guys like Marty Dempsey and Darren Roman, Reed Wills, and might offer Victor Benitez for here. Just kick some dudes. And there you go. So that's the plan. Losing a few more guys. Still not really losing anybody important to our future, though. A resounding 80-33 here in season 10 is pretty dang good, I'd say. And here in the draft, we actually got ourselves a solid pitcher here. That's it, but at least we got one guy. And it looks like we actually signed all our draft picks this time. Unlike last time, looking for potential call-ups. I mean, we got an 83 overall pitcher that's chilling here. This guy's on the 40-man. He's having a really good year, so let's move him up. And he needs to be added. Let's give Castilla a shot here, I'd say. Seems pretty obvious to me. Closer here, Rodney Olson. He might be getting close. His hits per 9 is in a really, really good spot. You know what? I'd say let's give him a shot. We're moving him to the MLB, then I'll take care of the send downs, and I'll see you at the end of the season. Also, can you believe the turnaround? We are now the #1 power team in baseball. I tried hammering it for years, and not only is it not a liability, we're the best in baseball at it. Imagine being first at contact, power, and pitching. I mean, if that team can't get out of the first round, there's something wrong with baseball. 115-47. We just keep getting better. Over 70% of the games were Red Sox victories. And let's see who we face here. Looks like we had some good, a good double A team, excuse me, as well. Not facing the Rays. Hopefully things work out better for us. But before we hop into that matchup, let's go through the stats here of the year. Tom Williamson, now a 99 overall pitcher. He's pretty flippin' insane. His ERA at a career best. His whip was a little bit higher than last year, but his WAR is up. Career high in K per 9. Career low in walks per 9 is good. Right in the middle there in home runs. That's his best FIP. So really good. Edgar Torres also now into the 90s. 2.67 ERA with a 106 whip. Beautiful 6.2 WAR. All of his stuff is in a really good spot. 1.68 walks per 9 is absolutely beautiful. Moya up to an 88 overall now. He had a really good year after, he was only a part-time player the year before, was really good in that time, and now full-time. He continued his success, 3.7 WAR. Not much of a strikeout guy, but that's okay. Esteban Acevedo ended up kind of holding in his position, which means I think he's probably reached his max, because this isn't a bad enough. This is a pretty good year. You'd think he would improve. So I think his ceiling has been reached. Castilla, we brought him up. He was good, I think, in his limited action. So our pitching is in a spot where it's looking really, really good at the moment. Let's take a look at Sable here. Doing quite well himself. And relief pitching, Ornelas up to an 87, which I think is pretty close to his max, so he's doing quite well. Ordonez, I do believe, was our closer once again. 45 saves to 3 bone saves, pretty good. Sandoval up to 94 overall. He bounce back year for him. Career high in home runs, career high in average, OPS at 880. His WAR is a career high as well, so really good year from him. Jung is our backup. Now going up across the board. Despite a little bit more power, but less average, which is more kind of what you'd expect from him. Rincon up to a 94 overall. He's back above 30 home runs, tied for his career high, back over 100 RBIs. OPS up near 900. This is bounce back year after a down year last year from him. Boyer, he's up across the board, up to 98 contact versus lefties. My goodness, hit over 300 on the year. And home runs. OPS above 800. And a career high in WAR. Garrett Guerra. He is doing pretty good. Got over 20 home runs for the first time in his career. Over 800 OPS as well. Career high in WAR. Mosqueda going down a little bit here, but definitely not in terms of productivity. 48 home runs, 285. OPS did drop below 900, but still third consecutive season of a WAR over 7. And McIntyre, excuse me, down in power but up in average. I don't know why he's down in power. He just hit his career high in home runs. I think he's also hit his peak. I think his potential was right around 90. But 8.6 WAR, highest on the team. We had Jason Gill here, up to a 93. He hit 20 home runs for the third consecutive year. This is a year very similar to 2 years ago, if we're being honest. So 6.7 WAR. I mean, everybody's doing well. I mean, Beasley up to an 86 now, 20 home runs. He kept his average right there, but then just blew his home runs out of the park. Yes, he had more at bats, but that doesn't explain the entirety of that. So his power was pretty good, 3.4. Where does his power go up? Yeah, his power went up a lot. Johnny Hill played at the MLB level for the first time. He hit 19 home runs in his debut, hit 264 as well, and had a 1.2 WAR. So a pretty solid debut season from him. A couple guys that are not on our roster I want to look at. I want to look at Mitch Felton because I think he's getting close. He is absolutely getting close. He came into the series with like power in the 20s, and he has been developing it quite nicely. Still don't think he's ever going to be a great power guy, but in terms of contact and fielding, I absolutely think he could replace somebody someday if we just can't afford them. Really happy with the development I'm seeing from Mitch Felton. He's probably, of the position players still in the minors, he's probably like the last one that I'm excited to eventually get to the majors. Other than that, our position spots are pretty much taken care of. So we'll have, I mean, Ray Beasley has been playing left field, so we're just gonna switch that position. Oh, yeah. Did I even save? Okay. There we go. Boom. So we have, there we go. And that gets us ready for the playoffs. Can we beat the Mariners? Can we get to our first, we win our first playoff series? We do go 2-0 in the first two, and we sweep them. Thank goodness. So we've got the AL Championship Series. We're taking on either the Yankees or the Angels. We're taking on the Yankees. So what's going to go down here? We're down 0-1. Series tied 1-1. We're up. We could clinch it here. Let's go ahead and hop into this one. Just to not like actually watch it, but just to kind of see it go down in front of our eyes. Look at that. 5 All-Stars. Our 2 through 6 hitter, all with that red star on their name. A chance for our first World Series berth 10 seasons after starting this project. It took a while, but it'll be worth it. We go out 1, 2, 3 here. Still only 1 hit on the board through 2 innings. Neither team doing too well here, but New York will get on the board. We can't hit a dang thing. There we go. A solo homer for Jason Gill ties this game back up. Couple singles, but then we follow with 2 strikeouts. Regardless, we still take the lead there with that single. It's 2-1. 3-run homer for, oh, that's for the freaking Yankees. Now they have the lead. For some reason, I thought we were up. Got to come up with something here, and we don't, so we will lose 4-2 in this one. Can't clinch the World Series berth. Maybe I'm bad luck. Let's just simulate the next one normal. Let's see if Chicago, our third notable player, did not have a hit. That's how bad our offense was. Good night. Let's simulate this one normal. Oh, we've got a game 7. Okay. Is the team gonna choke a 3-1 lead? Please say no. Mosqueda has not been great this postseason, neither has Sandoval. Need Mosqueda to show up big. He was the only guy that showed up in the Year 8 playoffs. And now he's one of the only guys not showing up here. 2-run homer in the first. Wait, a double play by us. That's exactly the start that we're looking for in game flipping 7, man. Jeez, our offense is trash. And then another 2-run homer, dude. Can we do anything? Are we just going to get absolutely walked out of the park? In front of our home fans, dude. We got 2 back-to-back solo homers. Scored 3 in the inning. Finally decided to show up to this baseball game. There in the 4th. Jeez, dude. This is awful. We're trash, man. Got 2 more innings to make up 4 runs, and we're not gonna do it. Good night. Oh, we sold a 3-1 lead. This team is is the least clutch team in baseball history, dude. We've been the number 1 seed for 3 straight years. We've won 1 series. I mean, that's pretty pitiful. Alberto Rincon was excellent in this game. I mean, 3-1 series lead, and you just shit the bed and lose 3 straight after that, dude. That's pretty pitiful. The Yankees go on to win the World Series. I guess that could be some kind of consolation prize, but this team's got to step the heck up, man. We're the #1 team in contact power and pitching. What else do you want from me? We're also top 10 in defense. This offseason would be a pretty big one. We got a couple guys that were offering multi-year deals. I'm trying to get Johnny Hill locked up for 8 and Castilla locked up for 9. And then the biggest deal of all, though, for sure, is Jason Gill. We're trying to pay him $21 million a year over the next 5 years. Hopefully that works out. And then we got a 2-year deal here and a 2-year deal here for Guerra, who's been solid if unspectacular for us. So, yeah, that's this offseason, but should have everybody back. Still not really losing anybody, except for actually we are losing Buster Pringle, probably the biggest name we've lost. He'll be remembered as kind of the stopgap ace for us. That was the ace for like 80% of our franchise, maybe even more than that. Honestly, yeah, he was more than that from basically episode 1 until Tom Williamson passed him up, and so just never really had the upside, never really had the consistency. We have so many more options that are both at his level now and have more upside into the future. So I'm just not going to pay him anymore. Same goes for Fernando Bruno. I know I said that last offseason. Apparently, if you want to have the CPU automatically sign their draft picks, they also just automatically sign guys in the offseason. They're the same setting. They're not separated, which I think is dumb. So what I had to do is I had to release these guys to make sure that the CPU didn't try to sign them, because they would be probably pretty expensive in arbitration. If they want to sign these other guys, then, you know, they can have at it. But I don't think they'll be as expensive. We still have about 10 million that I haven't offered, just under that. So I think arbitration for these guys would pretty much be that. And that is gonna be this offseason. We finally get over the hump and win the World Series in our next season. Let's find out. I just want you to take a moment and look at this chart here that shows our positional strength. Other than Garrett Guerra being an average third baseman, we're top 10 in the league everywhere. Surprisingly enough, the only position we're actually first is pitcher, but we're second in plenty of other areas. So shout out to the team developing over these last few years. Where we were at to where we are now a few years in, very different. We're first in things that we were towards the back half of the league in by the time, just last episode, really. Taking a look here at this most recent draft, a couple guys with upside, but that are going to take a million years to get there. They're really just guys with speed that are terrible at baseball. So there's that. We are currently 78-29, so pretty dang good. It's hard to dispute that. Don't really have a ton of guys. I mean, we still have all these pitchers, you know, that are waiting for their time. But other than that, position player wise, there's not a ton to look forward to, other than Mitch Felton, who's still developing pretty decently well. I think he's close. Pitching wise, we just have more good pitchers than we have available pitching slots, if we're being honest. So these guys are gonna have to stay down for a little bit longer, it seems, until I'm forced to send some of these guys away. Because I mean, we got 3 guys in the 90s and 3 more guys in the mid 80s. You know what I mean? Like, it's a very tough unit to crack, our starting pitching rotation. What a difference a few years makes, huh? Imagine us having a pitching rotation that was just too good to allow a young, promising player to enter. Couldn't have thunk it just a couple seasons ago. So, anyway, let's now get to the end of the season. 113 14 victories on the year, falling just below that 70% win percentage marker that we had last time. But again, I mean, just absolute regular season dominance, but it needs to actually result in some postseason victories. We win 2 in a row. We lose. We win against the Angels in 4. Seattle. Can we beat Seattle? We win the first. We win the second. We're 3-0 and we sweep them. And we are taking on the Phillies in the World Series. We've made it to the championship. Still gotta win it though. Still gotta win it. I guess this, what is the Phillies? But it might not have already been decided yet. All right. And the team pull it together and go all the way. They win game 1. They win game 2. Lose game 3. Win game 4. Can we pull out the victory and win the championship? What is this now? 12 years in the future from when we started this draft-only franchise. So many years drafting these great players and allowing them to develop. We haven't drafted a new starter since the year 8 draft, the last draft that I partook in. But that's okay, because in those 8 years we drafted a flippin' stacked roster. Going against Freddie Peralta, we're familiar with him. He was in my Las Vegas Athletics franchise, and he did quite good in it. Pretty quiet first inning. Got a double there, but couldn't do anything with it. 1 run scored here. We're the first on the board here in game 5. 1 run is not enough to be comfortable with there. Guerra gets a homer. We're up 2-0 now, still. 2 runs ain't much. Caught stealing there. Gonna end that inning. Just terrible baseball being played here. Another run scored. Or, you know, it's not terrible baseball, it's just great pitching. That's what we're watching here, right? Philadelphia has not scored today, and we are going to get the shutout in the rain. Andreas Ornelas closes out the World Series for the Chicago White Sox. It is possible. You can build a baseball team from nothing to champion as long as you're patient enough to wait 12 years. I also had the one-off video where I did an all-in-one video, kind of in the style that I'm doing this long-term sim, except that was the whole experience. I think it only took me 8 or 9 years that time. But regardless, it takes a lot longer than it has taken me when I've done these attempts in Madden. And still unsure about 2K. We're in the process of that one still. But I mean, this is a really fun team. I've enjoyed drafting all these guys that have all these varied skill sets. The generational players that were introduced into the game for MLB the Show 23, the updated scouting, I think made scouting a lot more fun than it was. And look at that little team photo, man. That's so cute. And player of the game goes to Moya, pitched 7 scoreless innings. And Chicago is world champions. I was getting a little scared that it just might not happen. We kept choking these playoff series when we were the better team, but Chicago White Sox won the World Series. Dave Roberts was the difference? Because we hired him prior to last season, right? This was his second season, so we hadn't won any series prior to the Dave Roberts hire. He's taken us one step further every time. This time we won, and hopefully we can continue to win. We still got a couple years of contract with him, and then, I mean, if we keep winning, I'm gonna re-sign him for sure. So let's keep on going. Want to see just how successful this core could be. All right, another pretty big year in free agency here. Trying to get these position players. We don't have a lot of backup options at the position player spots, so I think those guys are more important. Diego Moya, still trying to get just for more short term though. As you can see, I'm spending all my money here though this year, so we finally met the cap. We are at the high point here, so we might have to start losing some good players like Moya here soon. But I just talked about how great our pitching situation is, so if we lose Moya, obviously sucks. He was just clutch for us in a clinching championship game, but we just drafted so many pitchers that's just a more replaceable if we have to lose maybe one of our core players or so. It's probably at pitcher and not at position player. So again, not gonna lose him this year, but I don't know how much longer we can keep him. And then we got Boyer and Beasley that we're trying to keep around for a few years yet. And then on this screen, everybody's getting just the minimum deals. Nobody here is getting a long-term deal. We don't have the money anymore to do that. We can't pay these guys in advance anymore. We pay them when we need to pay them, and that's pretty much how things are going now. I just now realized that I was so excited about making the playoffs last year, didn't even go over the stats. So we're going to go over those right now before we hit next season. We got 42 homers for Russell Mosqueda, up over 200 on his career right now. He had 326, another season with an OPS over 1,000, 10.6 WAR, got into those double digits. You love to see it. Williamson here, 3.65 ERA, 1.15 WHIP, 5.1 WAR, just below what he's been, but he's kind of been that 5 WAR pitcher now for 3 seasons. Sandoval, it looks like he didn't hit for power versus lefty. Still hit 27 homers on the year, just one behind last time. Average wasn't quite there though. Still a nice solid bit of WAR. Jason Gill, my goodness, he's going downhill, but his home run's by far his best. That's one of the few things that rose was his power versus righties. 5.9 for him. Rincon can't hit a lefty to save his life apparently, but he got over 30 home runs again, 100 RBIs, hitting in the high 200s, OPS at 903. This is what Rincon has been for every year except for one, really, in his MLB career. Edgar Torres, 2.84 ERA with a 1.16 WHIP, 3.6 WAR, and strikeouts dipped a little bit for him. McIntyre, some of these guys are kind of hitting their peak, but it's fine because we're a really good team, and so we don't really need much more in the way of improving. Moya, just an awesome season here, 5 WAR for him. Beasley, down on contact a little bit, but discipline and clutch, my goodness, are in 6-6 spot. Hit 20 home runs again. OPS pretty much right at the same spot. WAR right there as well. Boyer, big power year for him, and just hitting year altogether. His clutch is up to 98. Good night. His home run record as well as his average record. So his OPS was way up there. His WAR was as well. Best season of the career for Boyer. Castilla, 3.8 ERA, 1.35 WHIP, 3 WAR. Solid for, he's our, fourth pitcher. Ornelas, his highest ERA allowed yet, but it's not like a bad one by any means. Sable, got in pretty good year. Garrett Guerra, let's look at him. He's a pretty steady Eddie, I'd say. He is kind of who he is, although his WAR did go up. I think his fielding is becoming better. Esteban Acevedo already hit his peak. This is not a great year for him. His worst since his first year. Johnny Hill. See how he's developing. Up to an 83 overall. Did regress actually in his second year, so don't love to see that. And then I want to take a look at how Mitch Felton is developing. Contact versus lefties is down a bit. It's okay because it was insanely high, so he has plenty of time to bring it back up. And yeah, this guy is ready to play at the MLB level. So if we need to lose somebody, if maybe Blake Boyer we can't re-sign at some point, or one of our outfielders like a Ray Beasley, I think we have a guy that's ready to fill in their shoes. Another one of these contact, play skills, fielder kind of players. I think he's got the best arm maybe on the team, except for Mosqueda even too. So maybe a right fielder. I think, yeah, Mosqueda's, he's on the line with Mosqueda. So there you have it. Almost missed looking at these guys' stats, but just got it in under the, before it was too late. Another draft down the books. A pretty solid pick here in Michael Fujita. Not a ton of upside, but a pretty decent starting spot. And then we got Alexis Castillo as well. So a couple of pitchers to replace some of the guys that we've been losing the last couple of years. And let's just take a look at minor leaguers here. Rodney Olson should absolutely be playing in the MLB. I don't know why he's not. And then where's our guy? Where's he playing? He's at the MLB level. I didn't even add him to the 40-man roster. I never added this guy to the 40, but I guess they did it. It's fine. He's at that point where he probably should be up here playing at the majors. So he was out of last year. Dude, I am not paying attention. So, yeah, I guess he's an MLB player, which means position player-wise and just prospect in general-wise, there's not really much to keep up on anymore. Everybody that I've drafted is either gone or in the bigs, pretty much, that I really care to follow. So, probably not going to do too much to keep up with them. Let's... Do we just have that many starting pitchers at the MLB level? Good night. Okay. He's gonna get claimed off of waivers, but he's 27. He's 79. That's just not good enough with some of the guys that we've got. Especially the CPU is actually starting to practice some decent replacement pitchers as well. So we got 4 pitchers in the 90s now and one at right behind it at 89, although he is on a bit of a cold streak, and this guy's well on his way. More of a long-term reliever with that. Oh no, that his stamina is 93. I was looking at his velocity. No, his stamina is definitely good enough to be a starting pitcher. So, anyway, I'll probably stop doing these little mid-season updates then on the prospects, because our drafts aren't going to really matter. And we don't really have many prospects in the minors that we need to check up on before their stats disappear. So we'll just start Simmons straight to the end of these seasons. Gonna be another season over 110 wins. I think we had this exact same record last season. I remember 113 and 49. So that's 3 straight seasons at least? Or is it every season during this sim? No, it's at least 3 straight seasons, maybe 4. Where we've lost less than 50 games. So, yeah, this team's pretty dominant. But it's all about what you do in the playoffs. This time I am going to remember to look at the stats. We're going to face off against the Yankees here in the first round. We've got Tom Williamson here. Now has a 3.37 and a 1.13. WAR-wise, it was his best year. He's just become insane, like under 1 home run allowed per 9 innings. He's getting 220 innings every single season. He's a beast. Edgar Torres. He's starting to slow down his progression, but that's fine because he's really good. 3 straight seasons under 3 ERA at $12 million a year. Looking like a steal right now. Diego Moya. This might be his last season. Oh, but he's so good. We have to find a way to bring him back. A lot of these guys were on front-loaded deals. They'll get cheaper as time goes on. Floyd Sable, though, another guy that's in line for a contract. Take Castilla here. We just signed him to one of those front-loaded deals. So he's solid. I think he could, be higher than the 5th pitcher in a rotation. Goodness heck. Hamilton was not great. This is easily the worst that we've seen so far from our pitchers, but that's fine. Esteban Acevedo started to get phased out here in a little. Oh my gosh, yes he has. He only pitched 19 innings. He's already phased out. It was awful in them. So he's probably playing out that contract, and that's it. He was one of my favorite pitchers to watch, but it looks like he just doesn't quite sim as well as some of these other guys. So kind of falling out of favor here. Roosevelt Meadows, really solid in his 49 innings, so not a ton of volume there. Ornelas up to a 90 overall. He's got 99 hits per 9. That's sick. He's had like 155 is like his average. 0.8 whip. It's good. Morales. Solid stuff from him. Olsen is up to an 80 overall. His per 9 is at 98. He did not allow a run. Only in 13 innings. Ordonez. 26 innings was not good. Kevin Sandoval. Looks like a really good hitting year for him. Got that average back up. Career high in both home runs and average. Yeah, that's going to do it. His first time over 900 OPS. WAR is at 8. That's a career high as well. And so really nice stuff from him. Philip Jung is up to an 80. He's probably going to be somebody that we can't keep very much longer. He's probably should be starting somewhere, if we're being honest. Rincon. No, dude, the consistency with this guy. Rincon is who he is. Low 30s home runs. His average is a little bit up. And his RBIs too. So this is actually one of his better years, if we're being honest. I think, yeah, this is actually probably his best year. But it's still just so close. This guy is what he is, Gotta love the consistency. He had one bad year. Otherwise, the dude shows up and does the same thing every single year. 4 home runs for Mitch Felton. Not great, but he's by far the lowest rated guy. And, he doesn't get a ton of action. He's a backup. Blake Boyer hit 311, 20 home runs for the first time in his career. And got that 3.6 WAR, which is pretty close to what he normally gets. Garrett Guerra getting up. I think that's pretty much his max. So this is looking like the final form for Guerra. His fielding has actually come quite a ways into the 70s now. Home runs, career high this time around. He's hit right in those mid 280s 3 years in a row now. So he's kind of become starting to become like Rincon, where you just know where he is. He's not at Rincon's level, but just the consistency of this is what this guy is. Holy crap. Mosquera can't hit lefties anymore. But he's going to absolutely obliterate a righty, which you can only hit one-handed, and that's the one I want. 39 is his lowest in 3 years. Oh no. Over 110 RBIs for 5 straight years now. Over 300 again for the 4th time in 5 years. OPS over 900 for the 4th time in 5 years. WAR at 8.4, his 3rd highest ever. Accumulated 50 WAR in his career now. Sick player. Ray Beasley. Another guy who can't hit lefties. Getting worse and worse as time goes on at hitting lefties. Right there, 20 home runs, right where he's getting his This was his worst year in a minute as far as average. McIntyre. Just been sitting right there at 90 overall, just kind of having his stuff fluctuate, but he's been sitting right there at 90 overall for some years now. Sitting at that, he's been mostly sitting around between 5 and 6 WAR, except for that one really good season that he had. Got 3 more years left on that contract. Gil starting to drop a little bit. Isn't great because we're paying him a lot of money, but he's still a good player for sure. This is his lowest WAR in quite some time. Hill had a really good year against righties, it looks like. He did bounce back quite a lot. He bounced back quite a lot, nearly doubling his previous career high for home runs. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Johnny Hill has arrived, ladies and gentlemen. He's also, I think, hit his cap. But from a negative WAR player to a 4.3. Oh yeah, Johnny Hill got in his bag this year. And yeah, then he lost a little bit of ABs, but not really that many. We've got him on that downsliding contract for the next many years. So like what I'm seeing there. Cameron, another guy who's still like climbing up the ranks. Like he did really well for himself this year. So there you have the player stats. Looks like a really strong team once again. Can we defend our championship? It's going to go to a game 5 here against the Yankees. And whenever we've got a do or die scenario, we're definitely going to tune in and watch it. So let's tune into this one. Sandoval struggling here. Mosqueda struggling as well. McIntyre really struggling. He's down to the 9 hitter on our lineup, man. He just kind of stopped developing and these other guys didn't. So nice start to the game for us. We got a couple of walks but couldn't do anything with it. And now the Yankees are on the board. They're on the board again. Our offense has been dog crap here to start this game. My goodness. Do something. There we go, Garrett. Put this on top. And now we just have a 5-run casual 4th after scoreless through 3. Protecting this 3-run lead here. Nothing doing for the Yankees in the 6th. We're also slowing down too. We've only scored in 1 inning, but it was a 5-run inning. This is exactly like the games that we would play, where, oh, you look excellent for 1 inning, but then you don't do jack crap for the other 8. Or we'd score in like 2 of the innings and then not do jack crap for 7. And the boys celebrating as they move on here. Nice clutch elimination game victory for Chicago. Garrett Guerra wins player of the game because of his homer that brought home 3 runs, right? No, just 2. So I think he was the only one that brought home more than 1 win. So let's now go ahead. Baltimore split the first 2. Up 2-1, 2-2, 3-2. We have another do or die game. I wish we could put teams away. That just has not been our forte. Now it's Johnny Hill going through a bit of a cold stretch. Hill and Guerra, the guys that are struggling. Mosqueda has bounced back. Boy, you're hitting 390 in the playoffs. It's something I certainly love to see. Edgar Torres is going to be the pitcher. Has not pitched very well in these playoffs, fortunately. But he gets a good start here. Mosqueda going to come through here in the first, give us the lead, but that did not last long. We striked out the side there, and in the inning, in the second inning, which is pretty terrible. Baltimore has a big time lead now, and that's how we respond to a 4-run inning. Sick. Oh no, that was Baltimore, dude. We are getting absolutely smoked. A 3-run homer by Boyer is clutch. We're still down by 4. Hamilton pitching for us right now. A homer makes it another homer. So Boyer 2 home runs, and it's down to a 2-run game. This is possible. Not when we're playing like that in the 8th. Goodness, what a terrible 8th. Got the top of our lineup back though. A 2-run homer and it's tied. It's going to extras though. 2-run home run by Baltimore. We lose in extras. Dang. Lose in extras. Heck you, Mota. Boyer is 4 for 5 with 2 home runs. The pitching was awful. We allowed 7 runs between the 4th and the 5th innings. That was terrible. My goodness. Torres just did not have a good playoffs, man. So, not able to defend our title. Can we just get to the end of the season, please? 112 wins. I think 50 losses is the most we've had in quite some time, but we'll be facing the Angels here in round 1. But until then, you're starting to see some of these guys go down. Russell Mosqueda down to a 94. Really? A 7.3 WAR season, he goes down that much. Interesting. But Kevin Sandoval, now the highest rated player on the team. He's hitting 21 home runs, averaging 305. WAR at 7.2. Tom Williamson, 3.82 ERA with a 1.32 and a 3.5 WAR. Blake Boyer at 93 overall. He entered one of the 5 best player conversations. 23 home runs, 314 average, 915 OPS, and a 6 WAR will be his career high. Charles Hamilton has arrived as a 92 overall pitcher now, 0.7 WAR. Still not amazing stats-wise though, especially compared to a guy like Edgar Torres, who is just our pitching model of consistency. Beasley has entered the 90s. But not a great year from him. Moya, his numbers are pretty solid. Rincon, I'm imagining we're going to see exactly what we usually do. We actually see a higher home run, but lower average. Still that 900 OPS and WAR right there. Yeah, this team is pretty dang good. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I mean, I would have killed for like one player to have these guys. But now like our whole entire team is having some insane numbers. McIntyre's officially actually gone down in overall. Been right at 90 for years. Nella's also going down. Still really good stuff from him. Gill continues to fall. This might be somebody that we don't re-sign once he's just going down and down and down as his career goes along. Johnny Hill didn't go up or down. I think that was his potential, right around there. So, 30 home run guy hitting 280. I'll take that for sure for WAR. Anybody else we want to check on? Mitch Felton might get his role expanded here soon. He only had 24 at-bats. Imagine he was playing some in minors to get the additions that you see here. Vision, discipline, and clutch all in the 80s now. Love to see it. And he's probably the best fielder on the team. But he has the best, I don't know about best fielder. Oh, actually, no. Kevin Sandoval. He's catcher. So, let's see what we can do here in the postseason. We split the first two against the Angels, and I didn't mean to send both of those games, but we'd win both. So, back battling for the AL pennant here. We won the first two against the Rangers, and the first three. I mean, come on, baby. We've only lost one game here in the postseason. Things are looking good going against the Rockies, huh? The Rockies are on the short list for my MLB the Show 24 franchise. Just say that. I like their unis. So we're 2-2. No, we're 3-2. Have a chance to win it all. Of course, we're gonna hop in when that's the case. Let's get on some nice unis. On our City Connects. And let's go win ourselves our second World Series, shall we? Jason Gill has been awful in these playoffs, but other than that, I feel like I'm liking what I'm seeing. Floyd Sable going to be the pitcher for us. Can we seal the deal here? A good starting inning for our pitching. 2-run homer from our guy, Rincon. Closest he's ever been to 40. I thought for sure he'd get 40 at some point. Another solo homer here. Up to 4-0 in favor of our White Sox. Two-run homer again. This time, Russ, who inexplicably went down to 94 overall and what was still a really good year. Feels like he's too young to start regressing like that, but hey, I'm no scientist. The White Sox have won World Series #2 here. Bring on the celebrations in these really nice uniforms. I love these uniforms. One of the main reasons I picked Chicago to be my team. And we win it in the last year of the contract of our manager. We're paying him $9 million. I don't think we can pay him that again. Team's starting to get right up against the cap. I think we need to save some money on our manager situation. So glad we were able to send Dave Roberts home with a second World Series victory with us. You'll love to see it. Alberto Rincon. Somebody that we've been tracking his career for so many years now. Jason Gill, for some reason wearing 25 all of a sudden. I don't even know. But let's have Dave Roberts here hoisting that trophy. Everybody getting excited behind him. And there's a group team photo. You love to see it. And I think we've now reached the point it's going to start being hard to keep this team together, and we're deep enough into the future. I mean, we're talking about 2036 now. I think at this point, you know, we've solidified ourselves as a multi-championship winning team. I think we're just gonna start seeing these players retired, and then we're gonna talk about their career stats, and that's reaches a point in every long-term sim of mine where I switch from following the team to just let's see where these careers go, and I think we've reached that point. So we'll start skipping around a lot more. It'll be when these guys retire, we'll see what their career stats look like. Not really so much following what happens year to year with the Chicago White Sox anymore, since starting potentially this year with Kevin Sandoval, and this is the reason I'm doing it. Like, I'm offering him a 4-year max. I could up the years and everything, but that's not even close. He's probably gonna want to go somewhere else. we could get a better coaching staff. But even if we offer this, we only have 17 million. We have a bunch of players we haven't signed. We have a staff that we haven't signed. So, yeah, Kevin Sandoval might be the first to leave. I'm going to do everything I can to keep him here, obviously. But in terms of this episode, we're just going to start to see these players retire. Sandoval's probably the first because he was an older prospect and he was from the first draft. But yeah, I'll see you once the first retirement comes by. And the first main player from the franchise to retire will be Esteban Acevedo. He pitched 1,300 innings in his career, allowed 1,319 hits, struck out 1,130 players, had a career ERA of 4.36, a whip of 1.37, won 54.7% of his games, and had a 13.5 WAR, struck out 7.72 batters, walked just over 1 every 3 innings, had a home run of 1.3, and overall a solid career, but ultimately got passed over by better prospects in our organization. Next up to retire is Bartolo Ordonez. Of course, was for us for quite some time. Ends his career with 337 saves to 58 blown saves. Pitched 529 innings. Struck out 532 in those. And allowed 208 runs. He had a 3.28 ERA, 1.16 whip, and a 6.9 WAR total is all. Struck out once per inning. Allowed 2.41 walks, just over a home run per 9, and a solid closer. He was somebody that I was trying to upgrade over. I think we could have done better, but ultimately I think by the end, once he developed a bit more, he was a solid closer for us. Russell Mosquera would also retire here at the age of 34 years old. He did fall off a cliff pretty quickly, but he ends his career with 402 home runs, 1,227 RBIs. He had a career average of 294, which is really solid, a career OPS of 878. He had a fielding percentage of 98, 72.6 WAR, so really good player. It'll be interesting to see if he makes the Hall of Fame. I don't really know a lot of historical baseball facts, if I'm being honest, so I don't know where he really compares with, all time, but was absolutely a stud for us, was our best player when he was at his height. He just, I don't know, his ratings started going down quicker than I thought they would. He got his last season with 30 plus home runs in 2035, and so just things went downhill pretty quickly after that. But I mean, he still had 20 plus home runs all the way through 2040, so it wasn't like he went super down. He just was never quite this top player where he had 39 plus over 3 seasons consecutively. And there would be no Hall of Fame here for Russell Mosquera, surprisingly enough. Again, I'm just comparing him to Rafael Devers. Yeah, I mean, Rafael Devers did have a lot more volume in some of this stuff, so I guess it makes sense. Jason Gill is the next name to appear here on the retirement list at the age of 37. He'd have nearly 2,100 hits by the time it was done, 260 home runs, 1,000 RBIs, hit 263 with 77 OPS. His career WAR would be 51 nearly, and really good fielder. What was his career fielding percentage? 99.7%. Really good fielder. Had some moments as a contact player. Had, one season of 30 plus home runs, was definitely more of a contact guy, but even more so was just an elite fielder, and that's what was his calling card at the end. I think he was our best non-first round pick of the series. I think I got him decently late. I can't remember exactly what round, but I know he was definitely a steal in the draft that we got him, and he ended up finishing his career with us. Started with us, had some time apart, but decided to come back home and reminisce where he won a couple of World Series before he retired. So good on him for that. Next up is Tom Williamson here. Of course, the other generational prospect. And both of these guys, they definitely had their peaks for sure. They did not last very long. I mean, we're talking 2029 to 2039, 11 years. That's not very long. 11, and 10 of them were with us. He's been waiting in free agency for somebody to sign him, but he keeps getting worse and worse. And his 1 year with us without us was terrible. Like, he was good with us. Hadn't had above a 4 ERA since his second season. But, and I think these are really good numbers. Not elite. I don't think he was ever, the best pitcher in baseball. He did get second in Cy Young one time just because we had 264 strikeouts. I think it was this year right here. Just had so many strikeouts that I put him up there. Despite his ERA never really being dominant, he was definitely a really good strikeout pitcher, and that was his calling card. He threw really hard and he got strikeouts, and it was really fun to watch him pitch. I wish he had a little bit more longevity, he and Mosqueda, so they could have better Hall of Fame resumes. Mosqueda already retired. He didn't make it. Tom Williamson, I'd be surprised if he made it either, if I'm being honest. Just needed a little bit more longevity to make it. And now it is Kevin Sandoval. I thought he might be the first to retire, but he ended up lasting longer than a lot of these guys. He was our first ever draft pick, and he was kind of an old guy. He played until he was 42, or at least he hadn't played the last few years. So he played until he was 39, which is still pretty impressive. He ends up playing 1,700, nearly 1,800 games, had 6,800 at-bats, had 1,900 hits, 315 home runs, hit 280 for his career, had an 832 OPS. He was just an excellent fielding catcher. I mean, look at all these years with just no errors whatsoever. Had an 82.9 WAR 83, which is the highest so far that we've seen. He had a lot more longevity than we saw from these other guys. So I think if anybody from this series is making the Hall of Fame, it's got to be Kevin Sandoval, right? If he doesn't make it, we might just have no Hall of Fame players from this series. Edgar Torres would also retire here at the age of 35. He hasn't played for 5 years. He was just hoping to latch on somewhere. He had an elite run for us, ERA and whip wise, between 2032 and 2036, below 3 every time. And the highest whip was 116 in that span as well. Really good stuff there. A career WAR of 34.7. Not much of a strikeout guy, but great at limiting the walks and the home runs. That was his calling card, and he was very, very good at it. Ended up starting 232 games at the MLB level. No Hall of Fame, for Kevin Sandoval. Nobody is going to make it from this franchise. That's sad. Blake Boyer retiring now at the age of 39. He has not played for the last 3 seasons, but never played for another team. Thank you for your loyalty, Blake. One of the few guys that stuck with us through the end. I think maybe the only guy, to be fair. The CPU did a horrible job keeping everyone together. And they also just fell off hard. It was kind of crazy to see, if I'm being honest. But he ends up playing just under 2,000 games. He had over 2,000 hits. He had 216 home runs, nearly drove in 1,000 players. Hit 277, 785 OPS. Career WAR of 41, 98% fielding percentage. He was always towards the bottom of our lineup. He was kind of one of those long-term development guys. He had the low overall coming in and just ended up developing a little bit slower than everybody, but ended up catching up and having himself a nice little stretch here. Right after kind of the simulation, he started to do quite well, hitting over 300, getting those 20 home runs. So, you know, if you can hit 20 home runs and hit over 300, that's a pretty good player. So I think at his peak, he was pretty good for us. Carl McIntyre here is the next to retire. He played until 39 as well, or he decided to wait until we retire. He didn't play the last 4 years. Ended up having a little 5-year stint with Pittsburgh after us. Overall played 1,700 games, had almost 1,800 hits. Excuse me. Drove in just under 900 people, had a career OPS of 800, and had a career WAR of just under 65. One of the higher of the team. Really, really good center fielder. Used his speed on the base pass plenty of times and in the field as well. He was a very clutch leadoff guy, and I really liked having him as our leadoff guy in this series. Diego Moya would also call it quits here. So he ended up playing quite a long time there with San Francisco, but of course, always going to be most well known for us. Started 354 games, pitched 2,300 innings, a career ERA of 3.54, 120 WHIP, had a total of 1,880 strikeouts, career WAR of 40.2. Decent strikeout guy, just kind of solid all around. Maybe didn't have one he super excelled at, but didn't really have many weaknesses you could put in his game either. A really good lefty pitcher for us. And then about 3 years after everybody else, for some reason, Alberto Rincon finally retires. Look how many years he sat without a team before he retired. Like, bro, just retire. He made me simulate way more seasons than I needed to. Anyway, whatever. He played over 2,000 games, had nearly 2,300 hits, hit 460 home runs, drove in nearly 1,500 runs as well, hit 288, an 881 career OPS, and a career WAR of 55.7, fielding percentage of 99%. Ended up being a pretty solid fielder by the time his career ended. And, you know, fielding at first base isn't the craziest thing. And so that is it in terms of all the core players here. And officially, we have no Hall of Famers on this team, which is sad to see, man. We definitely had guys with Hall of Fame potential. Just nobody could quite do it. And so we will still be known, of course, in history for our two, you know, World Series. I don't have my logo on or anything behind me. I haven't had my face cam on here in a while. We have simulated to 2048. We started this series in the 2023 season. We've simulated 25 seasons here. Puckered out, but despite no Hall of Fame, we still had some great players who had great peaks for sure, and will be remembered on this channel by me and hopefully by whoever else watched this series. We'll be back on for MLB the Show 24, but this is my last video on MLB the Show 23. I had a lot of fun with it. I just kind of got burnt out by the end. I think for going forward, I'm going to have one MLB the Show series rather than two, because I had plenty of juice to finish one and get pretty deep into this one. And so if I just have one, I think I'll definitely be able to do it. I think it's going to be something similar to what we saw here with the Chicago White Sox, although I don't know if it'll be exactly a 0 overall draft only. But there's plenty of time between now and when MLB the Show 24 comes out for me to ponder about that. If you have any ideas for MLB content you want to see come the next game, be sure to let me know. I'll take any ideas under advisement. But that wraps up the story of our Chicago White Sox draft-only franchise. They'd end up winning 2 banners, nothing else in all the simulation. The Chicago White Sox, they went to the playoffs a solid 5 or 6 years in a row after that, but never went back to the World Series, never won it. And then once we lost enough players, we just have had a streak of not going to the playoffs for the last 10 plus years here in this simulation. As you saw, pretty much every guy left. So CPU didn't really prioritize sticking with our guys, but I also can't really blame them because a lot of them regressed really fast. Like they were 70 overalls from 90 within like 3 seasons. It was crazy. So, yeah, ratings changed pretty crazily. And it was like before Tom Williamson hit 30, he was already down in the 70s. Tom Williamson was a 99 overall. Wild. Anyway, that's all I've got for this episode. Thanks for sticking with me if you're still here along the journey of telling the story of the Chicago White Sox team. Ended up winning 2 World Series, but no Hall of Famers in the end. I still think a really talented team. We'll be back with MLB content come MLB the Show 24, and I'll see you then.